Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to be discussing 6 things you should avoid in your life in order to improve your life, in order to self-improve. So the first major category is bad health habits. These include smoking, drinking, doing drugs, or eating bad food such as sugary food or oily food or unhealthy food in general, such as junk food. Each of these things can really make your life worse, and you might not realize that, but if you're not healthy as a result of one of these things, that affects your life in other areas of your life, such as your financial part of your life, or relationship wise, or work wise, career wise, or maybe if you're studying something, it affects your ability to attend class or concentrate in class. So you should avoid or severely minimize any of these things. Specifically regarding smoking, if you are smoking, you need to start trying these products they have to stop smoking, gums and other types of products they sell for you to try to smoke when you're eager to smoke. Something else you can do is, if you bought a pack of cigarettes, if you smoked one cigarette, then throw away the rest of the pack, and that would force you to go buy another one. So you have to physically drive or walk to the store to buy another one, which makes it more difficult for you to smoke because it requires time and effort, and more also, very importantly, money to keep buying new and new cartons. So maybe you can try that. As far as drinking, also it has very bad health effects, so you need to try to minimize that as well. And a lot of these things have to do with money too. So let's say if you're trying to save money and you find yourself, it's difficult for you to save money. Maybe it's because you're spending too much on cigarettes or drinks, and drugs, of course, can be very serious. You should try to avoid taking any types of drugs at all cost. Even some people think marijuana is acceptable, but actually it is not too. I think weed can lead to more serious drugs later on, so I don't think that's safe either. And in one of my previous jobs, I was basically going into neighborhoods in San Francisco, in the worst parts of San Francisco, like Tenderloin and parts of Soma. And my observation was that the people that are the worst off in society are typically people that currently are drug addicts, or they smoke weed every day and live in these kind of conditions. So that drugs itself is definitely directly linked into the well-being of people. So you should try to avoid that, even smoking weed, at all cost. And a lot of these habits have to do with self-discipline. So you need to take a gradual approach to this. As far as food, for example, if you're eating junk food, let's say 5 times a week, you need to try to minimize that, reduce that number, let's say, to 4 times a week. And after you've made some progress with that, maybe after a week or maybe a month, then minimize that to 3 times a week. So gradually try to decrease some of these, which can lead to better health and also help you save more money. The second major category of things you should avoid is gambling. gambling in general, can lead to debt, can lead to crises, all kinds of crises, whether it's financial, whether it's relationship wise or family wise, work wise. So you should avoid that at all costs. And also that can lead to bad health too, because if you're gambling and that can lead to stress and like mental disease, it can really affect your health. And as I mentioned, the type of crisis you can have with this is if you gamble, you might have family problems. When I was a child, I personally saw that in some of my neighbors, due to gambling, I had neighbors who were always quarreling, always, having problems, and in fact, that led to, I believe, somebody's suicide. So it's very, very serious. And the third major category you should minimize in your life in order to become more successful and improve yourself is to minimize or avoid bad influence. The bad influence primarily comes from friends. So if you have friends that are doing some of the things I described before, let's say they're drinking a lot or doing drugs or gambling, if you are always in their circle, you would expect what might happen is that you might become like them, or they might influence you quite a lot. So my recommendation, if you have friends like this, is to talk to them and see if they can change, or explain to them what the problem is. If they're not willing to change, just cut all ties with these kind of people, find new friends. This is very serious. Another bad influence you might have is from your family. If any of your family members are like this, drinking, gambling, whatever the case might be, then it's a more serious problem, and you need to seek help, I should say. You need to seek outside help to help these people, your family, with these kinds of problems. The next major category of things you need to minimize or avoid is certain bad influences in society as a whole. For example, in Bulgaria and in general, I think in Eastern Europe, people tend to drink a lot. Unfortunately, that's how the culture is. So if you're in that kind of situation, it's very difficult for you to change, because if most people are like that, then you'll be kind of an outcast. So the same thing is in the US with drugs. There's a big drug culture in the US, and I think here it's more acceptable than in other countries regarding that issue, and unfortunately it's widespread and it's very bad. So I feel in that kind of case, people that feel strongly about these kind of issues need to come together and try to help society as a whole, whether it's through groups or partnerships or organizations. And it has to do with people coming together and education. Just like for example, in the US, the great thing about the US is a lot fewer people are smoking than, let's say, in Eastern Europe or Asia. So I think that had to do with education. I didn't live here for the whole time that this campaign took place, but there is definitely public visibility to this issue, and there's campaigns saying smoking is bad and these are the bad effects of smoking, and there's all kinds of taxes on cigarettes, which makes cigarettes more expensive. So there are all kinds of these kind of issues, and it's done through either the government or different organizations that help educate people and help spread the message that a certain habit is bad for you. And the next major category of things I think you should avoid if you'd like to improve your life is try to minimize bad influences due to sports culture. And this is more common in certain parts of the world than others. For example, I think there's a very bad sports culture like soccer culture, especially in Europe, which leads to, you know, radicalization of people and racism and all kinds of bad influences and things. So even though if you support a certain soccer club, if you go to the stadium and you're surrounded by racists and bad people, you know, you end up, you know, hanging out with them, you know, they might influence you really bad. And so my point is, if you need to improve your life regarding this issue, maybe you should avoid these types of people, or maybe avoid going to places where they can have a bad influence on you. And the last major category I'd like to discuss in order to improve your life is stealing and crime. You know, you should never commit any crime and stealing and anything of this nature or anything more serious, because even if you commit something that's you think it's minor, this can lead to more serious crimes and more serious issues down the road. So you should avoid committing all crime, you know, at all cost. So that's all I had. I hope this information helps you. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you and take care. Bye.